Look who's back for part 2. If you didn't catch part 1, I highly recommend watching that before this video. That's a tank edition where I go through 8 different ninjas from the Naruto universe that I see fitting the Vanguard role within a Marvel Rival styled game based around the Naruto universe. If not, no worries. The full video with all 5 parts will be coming out next week on Monday. Now, quick introduction run through. Today, I'll be talking about 18 different ninjas from Naruto that I see fitting the DPS role within a Marvel Rival style game. Now, these are going to be different from the previous 8 ninjas that I mentioned in the last video. And let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. As you can tell, this is going to be the duelist equivalent for the ninjas. Assault ninjas will be the DPS and damage dealers of the team. They pick off other ninjas and do a majority of the damage. I'll actually include a variety of ninjas that include intelligence and sensor ninjas. Generally speaking, I won't be making a whole new role to fit these ninjas. They would just have the unique abilities that incorporate their own jutsu in different ways, but not all having to do damage. Yeah, I get it. I have an issue bringing up the Sand siblings. Thankfully, Kankuro's the last one. And to differentiate him, I'll be making him an assault ninja, focusing primarily on his use of puppetry to deal damage. I want Kankuro to have all his iconic puppets, maybe even Sasori, held in scrolls. He only summons them by pulling out scrolls and uses their ability to attack. Before getting to how his puppets will work, I want to bring up that Kankuro will primarily be a long-range damage dealer. He'll have chakra threads that do long-range slashes as his primary fire. His abilities will incorporate all of his puppets. One of his puppets will be a clone, and I know I want to leave shadow clones in Naruto. This puppet will be an escape mechanism similar to Loki, but you teleport anywhere you want when activated, leaving a clone that it self-destructs either on command or within a few seconds after being left, so enemies can fire at it. Another puppet will trap enemies in a stun, and will require proper aim to deliver the stun similar to Mantis. You can actually do another ability once the trap works by tapping the same button on the cooldown to activate an impaling of the enemy with multiple weapons. This will work like Black Widow's kick into a grapple, but instead it's a stun and attack, and very similar as this is his only defensive close range ability. Another ability will use a puppet to create a smokescreen like the Poison Mist Hell 100 continuous firing technique, which uses 2 puppets, one for the mist smokescreen and the other to fire poison needles. If he needs a bigger trap ability, give him the Black Secret technique, Machine Triple Shot, which traps more enemies in a larger area and deals damage. This could even just be an AoE ability from a puppet. Finally, his ultimate should just be Sasori. Give him a whole new moveset for 10 to 15 seconds that uses Sasori's whole body, from the flamethrower to the mechanical shield block. Kankuro would be a pseudo guardian ninja, but his trap and damage potential make him an assault ninja. Let me show some more love to the Kunoichi of Naruto, man. I got Tenten as an assault ninja, and the only ninja in this whole list that I will allow for the kit to revolve around just weaponry. Her whole fighting style centralizes around the use of weapons, from chains with weights to bows. All these weapons she learns to carry in scrolls and summon them when needed, so she always has an arsenal on her. Her primary fire I actually want to be the Manriki Gasari, the previously mentioned chains with weights, to do long range damage. Her melee would be a bow staff. I want her to have an ability which summons the Jidanda, a giant spiked ball that looks like what's at the end of a flail. She can choose to either do a slam or spin attack, like Magic does. I actually like having her play like Magic with her weaponry, so I'll give her 2 of these on cooldown. Another ability would be the Basho Sen, or the Banana Palm Fam, that is one of the treasured weapons of the Sage's 6 paths. She can use this on a larger cooldown since it actually requires a large pool of chakra, so recharging that chakra would be the time waited on the cooldown. I think it'd be cool to see some sort of ceiling scroll as defense that absorbs projectile damage up to a certain level, and then using that ability again will release the damage as a projectile exploding on impact. I know Tenten can use a metal dome as defense, but she's not a guardian ninja, and I don't see the necessity for that. Maybe that could be a passive. If she stays still and is out of combat, she'll release the dome with a small amount of shield to stay safe and prepare for the battle. Finally, her ultimate should be her twin rising dragons, letting her do a dragon dance through the battlefield doing a ton of damage while raining a bunch of weapons down, and then finishing off by releasing a fire dragon. Maybe that's too much, but I think Tenten's affinity for weapons is a breath of fresh air and is an amazing representation of her fellow kunoichi on the battlefield to do damage as an assault ninja. Darui is actually super tough, and is one of my favorite ninjas from the village hidden in the clouds. For starters, he can use a storm release by combining water and lightning. An ability would be to make walls of water as both shields and damage by electrocuting them. His primary fire should be his beams of light from the storm release laser circus. He should have his sword that can be imbued with lightning as a melee weapon. The lightning power-up could be another ability that charges his cooldowns with more damage, which includes his sword. His ultimate will be Black Lightning, which he can gain access to the Black Panther Lightning release, basically identical to Black Panther's ultimate. Darui is slept on and would be amazing to see as an assault ninja. Since I just mentioned Darui, I gotta bring in the GOAT himself, Killer B. Having him rap all the time would be hilarious, especially seeing that in interactions with other ninjas. Look, he's a Jinchuriki of Kyuki, but by no means is he a lousy ninja without his tailed beast. I want him to have an ink ability that blinds his enemies. Since he's seen with 7 blades, he should 100% be a melee-based character with a combo of sword slashes in rapid succession as his primary fire. I really want him to move like Wolverine, and just wait for the team up I got in store for him in the last section of the video. He'll have another ability to kick his swords as projectiles, with up to all 7 swords being shot separately at a target. If connected, he should be able to use the cooldown again to electrocute the target with any impaled swords. The more swords, the greater the damage, rewarding high accuracy even with projectiles. I really wanted to incorporate his Jinchuriki and basically change parts of his body to tentacles, granting him a new moveset. Essentially, I want him to be like Ramatra in this form, where one arm turns into a bunch of tentacles to shield, and he gains the ability to generate tornadoes by spinning those tentacles and making projectiles. This would be super cool to see, and Killer B just screams DPS. I don't want to see a single argument saying otherwise. Since I mentioned one Jinchuriki, I think it's time I go straight into the most obvious one, who's the main character of this game. You cannot have a Naruto game without Naruto, and I'm obviously making him an assault ninja. He's the only character I've given the Rasengan as a primary fire since iconic to him. If on the same team as any other Jinchuriki, I want him to use different releases for his Rasengan, like a lava release from Son Goku or magnet release from Shukaku. This would add an effect or increase damage a slight amount. An ability on cooldown will be the Rasen Shuriken, doing more damage and exploding at a set distance or on contact. He'll also use Shadow Clone since again, it's so iconic for him. One of his abilities should make him go into Sage mode, maybe a meditation like Iron Fist does. His ultimate should either turn him into the Ninetales or just summon Kurama. Honestly, I would much rather prefer to have him go Sage 6 as Naruto and provide his team with cloaks if nearby to increase damage and add overhealth. He'll become faster, do more damage, maybe even give him new abilities. The possibilities with this character are endless, and honestly, he could go in so many different directions. He's going to be nerfed so heavily, but his kit would still be so fun to use as an assault ninja. Who's Naruto without Sasuke? He goes hand in hand with Naruto. Sasuke also has to be an assault ninja, being that he has the potential for so much damage. Incorporating everything he is capable of will be very hard to do. He can summon snakes like Orochimaru, he has a cursed seal that elevates his speed and strength, and of course, his iconic Sharingan. He has a lot of fire and lightning releases, which is what I'll focus on. Honestly, I feel like he would play most like Psylocke, giving him his Grass Cutter or Kusanagi as a melee or an ability imbued with lightning. He obviously needs a Chidori dash that does extra damage if it connects with an enemy, maybe piercing multiple enemies. Either would work since it's pretty much the same principle of the Chidori and a sword. Or just use the sword like Hawkeye does to reflect and block projectiles as well as damage anyone nearby. His primary fire could be a fireball that he shoots out, maybe a flame shuriken from his blaze release. It has to be a little different from typical shuriken and kunai as I don't want every ninja doing that. It's either this or lightning infused needles and streams, but the theme is to have a chakra release to imbue the projectile so it's not normal. His Sharingan has too many abilities, as does every Uchiha's. So I might hold back on mentioning it too much, but I think I would give him team-ups to give him Amaterasu, as well as a rewind ability similar to the one Black Panther and Psylocke get from Magic and Marvel Rivals. One of my favorite abilities that Sasuke does is when he summons Kirin, the Lightning Dragon, which would be on a large cooldown. This won't be his ultimate, as he does have a Susanoo, as does every Uchiha, and I want his complete body, one with 2 swords going crazy. I want him to only have the Mangekyo Sharingan, no Rinnegan for you, buddy. Maybe I'm confusing his abilities between the eyes, and I don't care, You can imagine he's going to be heavily nerfed regardless. These types of ninjas are just too powerful to be left alone. Sasuke and Naruto gotta be super nerfed since they have so many abilities but perfectly represent damage dealers and DPS as assault ninjas. I really wish Kiba got more recognition as a ninja. He's the only one who has a pet that's incorporated into his jutsu. Akamaru is such a cool dog since they work together in unison as a two-man team. A lot of his abilities will be using both of them. Kiba will be a mainly melee character, similar to Black Panther. He'll have the same claws as his primary fire, and Akamaru will be summoned as needed. One of his abilities will turn Akamaru into a clone of himself to do the Fang Passing Fang ability, but it'll act as somewhat of a dash attack that does piercing damage. This would be the same tornado kick principle that Black Panther has, and places a marker over any enemies that the ability connects with. This leads directly into another ability, which sends Akamaru to do a long distance dash attack, which is the same dash attack as Black Panther but substitutes yourself for Akamaru. If the input of this ability is pressed again while Akamaru is dashing, it'll instantly switch places with Akamaru, so it can also be used as an evasive tactic. Holding the jump button will put Kiba in his 4-point stance to jump very high and far. Landing on an enemy will allow for a unique barrage of attacks as he slams on them. This won't do too much damage, but will be a pick-off tactic for ninjas evading on low health. A larger cooldown ability would be the two-headed wolf to do Fang Wolf Fang and attack enemies for larger damage. This will also put a marker on the enemy to do another Akamaru dash reset. His ultimate will summon a shadow clone to do the three-headed wolf transformation to do the tail chasing Fang Fang rotation Fang technique. I also want Kiba and Akamaru to have two passives, along with the markers that reset after every dash. One will be climbing vertically on walls as Black Panther does, and the other passive will be a tracker, being able to see sense of enemies as a trail. This would be very short and would be maybe 3 steps behind them, but will only show when you're unable to see the enemies directly, as seeing too many trails would blur up the screen. To balance him out, I want him to be a squishy like Spider-Man is. His damage potential and combo possibilities are so large to the point where he needs to be only a pick-off character that gets in and gets out. The prodigy of the Hyuga clan himself. I love Neji. I hated the Hyuga clan and how they split up their own family to protect the royal side. Really hurt to see Neji die, even though he was the best Hyuga in my eyes. It was unfortunate to see how the branch treated him and his family. It's no surprise I'm making him an assault ninja. He will also be primarily melee based, revolving around the use of his clan's techniques and the Byakugan. His taijutsu would just be his gentle fist fighting style, and he would play similarly to Iron Fist in that sense of primary fire and melee being the same thing. He'll be able to use the 8 trigrams 64 palms technique as Iron Fist does with his parry to charge damage and unleash a barrage of punches that inflict piercing damage through multiple enemies. Another ability would be an AoE burst that reflects incoming projectile damage from all directions in the form of the 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven. Neji's ultimate could be another trigrams ability, maybe 128 palms, where he essentially does Iron Fist ultimate. Sorry if this is a little lazy, but I couldn't think of anything much better. Incorporating his Byakugan as a passive, he should be able to see chakra of enemies through walls who are on low health levels, similar to Sombra from Overwatch. This would be helpful in finding out where ninjas are hidden and coming from. His combos would go crazy as an assault ninja. The ninja with nothing but taijutsu is obviously going to be an assault ninja. Rock Lee is not to be slept on though. He's a trooper and a taijutsu master. I know I said Neji would play like Iron Fist, but Rock Lee would be even more like Iron Fist. Since he is all taijutsu, I want him to be able to run on walls and have multiple mid-air jumps just like Iron Fist. His melee and primary fire would be the punch and kick combo of the strong fist fighting style. Pretty much identical to Iron Fist. One of his abilities would pay homage to the Chunin exams, letting Rock Lee let go of his weights to reach a heightened state of speed and damage for a short period of time. This would pretty much be his reverse Lotus form. Another ability would be his Drunken Fist, fighting very unorthodox, being very hard to hit, and gaining access to a new melee and primary fire with unpredictable combos. Going back to the reverse Lotus, I want to mention the Front Lotus, which would let Rock Lee wrap up his enemy and slam them into the ground. Matter of fact, I want to add one more ability that he should have. His iconic Leaf Hurricane doing 2 attacks, one stun and the other knockback. This could be a multiple enemy attack to create space and push them back, similar to Iron Fist Dragon Kick but in a different perspective. His passive would just be Rock Lee opening the 8 gates. As he does more damage and is constantly in combat, he can unlock more gates. This would pretty much be like Wolverine's Rage. When out of combat, the gates would close and increase his health, even providing overhealth as well as a second chance at life if gone below the health pool, identical to Wolverine. His ultimate has got to be the crane wing formation that he did to destroy half of the meteorite with the Suicide Core. I think having him do it by himself would be awesome, just a huge attack that does insane damage. Maybe implement the Winter Soldier ultimate here and give him a reload every single kill he gets. That would be something spectacular to see. Since I brought up Rock Lee, it's only fitting to pay homage to Kimimaro. He was originally in the Sound 5, but after his death it became the Sound 4. His Kekkei Genkai, Shikotsu Myaku, would be the main focal point of his moveset. He would use his bone sword as a melee weapon, and I want to give him a bone projectile as a primary fire. His abilities would revolve around his dances. Another ability could be defensive by letting his bones protrude outside of him, doing damage over time to anyone near him and giving him a bonus shield to take less damage as overhealth. I know I mentioned Sasuke's Curse Seal, but I actually might go back on my word with that and bring that up as a team up with Orochimaru on the team. That would bring a Curse Seal for anyone paired up with him, a whole new ability with a large cooldown to go into the Curse state. That would be awesome to see for each ninja that has a Curse Seal. His ultimate would actually be like Venom's, going underground and shooting up under his desired location in the form of an entire forest of gigantic bone blades. This would give him overhealth and deal damage to anyone who fell in that area. Kimimaro was one of the OG ninjas that Rock Lee fought and had a lasting impact on how cool his Kekkei Genkai was, so I had to mention him as a DPS. Since I'm reminiscing about the OG Naruto, I want to mention Raiga and Ranmaru. These two would actually be one character. Both Raiga and Ranmaru would have critical hitboxes on each of their heads respectively. I would give them a larger health pool to balance that out, and since it is 2 people, but they don't have 2 different forms. They die together and respawn together. They act as one character. Being one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, Raiga will use Kiba, the twin swords imbued with lightning, as his main moveset. His primary fire would just be normal slashes of his swords. He can use an ability to imbue his attacks with lightning, enhancing his primary fire to do more damage for a short period of time. He can block with the Kiba and walk around, taking less damage. Honestly, he'd act as a pseudo tank because of his health pool and ability to block. He'll actually be able to change stances without a cooldown, just animation time in between. This change in stance will be either the 2 swords separate, or the swords will be connected at the hilts to create a double-bladed sword. He would gain new abilities, a long-distance primary fire, and the shield would be a sword spin. Going back to his normal abilities, he can use lightning techniques like calling in a lightning strike anywhere he's aiming. This would not be on a crazy long cooldown, but will act as a stun with not a large amount of damage. This could connect to enemies who are nearby as well, stunning them too. Tying Ranmaru into the kit, I want him to both be able to see through Genjutsu, which would be able to see chakra signatures through smoke screens and such, and he'd also be able to use his own red dust smokescreen himself to create a veil around himself and his team. I think the best way to visualize this part of the kit is with Punisher, as he has both heat signatures as a passive when enemies leave combat or even through smokescreens. His own smokescreen is an ability just as I implemented with Ranmaru. Now for their ultimate, Raiga will summon down a large amount of lightning strikes within a desired area, similar to Moon Knight's ultimate. I actually want to mention that Raiga will have a self-destruct ability, which will call lightning down on himself in the hopes of killing other ninja nearby, but will also kill him immediately. So just a huge lightning explosion. This would be on a super large cooldown, maybe close to Doctor Strange's teleport cooldown, since I would want this to both one-shot himself as well as anyone nearby in a defined radius. That would be cool to see. Raiga and Ranmaru are really close to being a tank, but work better as a damage dealer, so I'm sticking with Assault Ninja for them. Suigetsu is an interesting pick for this list. He was a part of Taka and actually aimed at gathering all the swords of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Being that he stole Zabuza's sword, you might ask why I did not put him on the list, but you'll be surprised what I have in store for him later. I want Suigetsu to be somewhat like Jeff the Shark, being able to turn into water and move around as both an evasive measure or an offensive measure to go unnoticed in the enemy backline. This would be a nice ability to incorporate for movement. I would also like a defensive ability being his jelly state when he somewhat liquefies himself. It would take less damage and act as a shield since he's not fully solid for a short period of time. His primary fire will be water bullets, and I think a cool ability would amplify this by using both hands to rapid fire and increase his fire rate for a short period of time. He should carry bottles of water and drink them for health, similar to Roadhog's Rebreather ability. Because of the sword's weight, Suigetsu will need to use it as his ultimate, only pumping his arms up with water to strengthen himself to wield it. This would give him a new primary fire, swinging the blade and granting him a sword block. I think that would be nice to see instead of giving him a whole moveset revolving around Zabuza's sword. I was going to add Mangetsu as an honorable mention, but they would have identical movesets and he would really just be a clone, so there's no point in adding his older brother in. I just thought I'd bring that up since I did consider him, but he really would be a reskin at that. I haven't shown much love to the Akatsuki lately, but these next 4 I think need to be on the starting roster. First off is Konan. She's super unique being that her whole kit is focused on paper. Her primary fire would be Paper Shuriken, which is unique to her. Maybe they could be similar to Doctor Strange's primary fire or even Kiriko's healing, but with an explosion at the end. I want her to have a flight ability. Given her nickname Angel, she can fly in on her wings made out of origami. One more ability would be her Paper Asphyxiation, stunning and damaging opponents. Her ultimate would be the Dance of the Shikigami, making her turn into paper and gaining access to explosive paper spears, shuriken, and her Divine Blade Chakram. Pretty quick run through, nothing too crazy, I just think she would be a unique assault ninja. Now, for the next member of the Akatsuki I want to bring up, it's Hidan. I was on the fence about making him either a guardian ninja or an assault ninja. I decided to just go assault since he is so bloodthirsty and insane. He actually can't be immortal in this game, so I won't be taking his immortality into his abilities. I'll give him the triple bladed scythe as his primary fire and an ability to shoot it out for a long range attack. The ability would shoot the scythe out and let you control it by aiming where it goes and it drags as it follows your reticle. Retracting the scythe will start the cooldown of the ability. I want him to have some sort of rage mechanic like Wolverine to get a second chance at life and health regeneration or overhealth, maybe from Jashin, having to do with blood, the more damage and pressure he does. Since he is in this satanic cult, I want Hidan to use his ritual as his ultimate. Going full Grim Reaper mode, he will become a beacon of pain. He won't fully trap his enemies, but anyone in the radius will be inflicted to damage done to Hidan. He will have a total of 5 strikes he does on himself, each doing a decent amount of damage to anyone in the radius. Additionally, his team can do damage to him while in this form to also inflict damage to the enemies. This could be a crazy combo, calling out when you use the ultimate and having your whole team focus on doing damage to you, which will make you act like Moon Knight's Ankh, but for your whole team. Hidan can't die in this ultimate, but it also needs time to kill with the pain he inflicts on himself to kill. The main damage potential comes from the team. Hidan also is unable to move while in his own ultimate, so if the enemy team avoids this, he could actually end up dying if no one falls in the trap. Hidan is a brutal assault ninja. The third member of the Akatsuki is none other than the iconic Itachi Uchiha. Unfortunately, he's gonna have to be nerfed like crazy as well. At this point, you can sense the pattern. I really want to incorporate his genjutsu into his moveset, but it'll be difficult to translate. He could potentially have an escape option like Hello where he turns into a crow to flee the battle. I want him to have a passive rebirth ability like Adam Warlock where he resurrects wherever he chooses, turning into a flock of crows as he dies. Honestly, he could summon a swarm of crows to stun enemies. His primary fire should just be his shuriken jutsu, nothing too crazy. but different enough to work. We all know he carried a sword during the time of the Uchiha clan massacre, so why not throw that in as his melee? Again, he's so overpowered that all of his abilities seem so weak for him. Since this is so iconic, let's give Itachi Amaterasu as an ability. I don't care how it's implemented, just let him have it. For his ultimate, I was considering giving him a Susanoo, but since I've done that sort of thing for too many characters, I want to give him his Tsukuyomi, really just an AoE on anyone surrounding him. Just gets stunned and stabbed like Kakashi did. I know, I'm leaving so much off the table for him, but Itachi's just too overpowered for his own good. Finishing up with the Akatsuki, I have to mention my favorite Uchiha, Obito. If I'm gonna mention Itachi, I really should bring up the GOAT himself, Tobi. To be honest, I want him to focus exclusively on Kamui. His primary fire will shoot out shuriken summoned from the Kamui dimension. He should have a teleport that lets him get out of sticky situations, kinda similar to magic teleport, but longer with a larger range. For his melee, let's bring back his chain bracelets we saw when he fought Minato. Look, I know some of you will hate that I gave the 10 tails to Madara even though Obito was a Jinchuriki first, but you'll understand what I have stored for them in the team-ups. Just trust me on this. One last ability for Obito should be a barrier or shield, like the flame formation he used to protect the demonic statue, or just give him a regular blast wave, wild dance fire release. His ultimate should just be an insta-kill where he uses a long-range Kamui acting like an AoE and really just should be like Jeff's ult. Nothing too crazy for my boy Obito. Going back to back with Obito, I have got to bring up Kakashi Hatake, that copycat ninja. I personally hate this dude, but we're not going to get into that. Since he taught Sasuke the Chidori, just give him his own version of the lightning cutter, Raikiri. His purple electricity would also be tough to see as a primary fire projectile. Give him a mud wall with 2 on cooldown, similar to Groot's walls. I actually love seeing his puppies, so bring in his Ninken as a stun. I was going to mention his whole complete body Susanoo, but that's only with Obito dead, so we're going to just use his Ninken as an ultimate like Squirrel Girls. I really don't care about Kakashi. I got personal beef with him, so I'm not even going to bother going in depth with him as an assault ninja. Finally, finishing off the assault ninjas is none other than the sensei of both Obito and Kakashi, the 4th Hokage, the Yellow Flash, Naruto's father, Minato Namikaze. This dude might be the most annoying ninja to fight against. He should have 3 teleports on cooldown, similar to Spider-Man's web swing, but of course, just a teleport. Just throw a kunai and press the same ability again to instantly teleport there. Or just have teleportation kunai placed around the map, and with the press of a button, go to the nearest one. It honestly does not matter, but he is the Yellow Flash for a reason. Actually, you know what? Make that his primary fire. That would be hilarious to see. Let him throw his kunai and on contact with an enemy, teleport to them, and then do melee damage to finish them off. Give this dude a seal ability that acts as Sombra's hack, temporarily sealing away all jutsu on an intended target. This has some wind-up delay to complete, but is very rewarding. For his ultimate, let him teleport his whole team anywhere he desires, similar to Doctor Strange's ability, but instantaneous and they can be anywhere for him to do so. It's sad to say, but I'm all out of ideas about how to make these ninjas not seem overpowered without nerfing them for this game. And with that being said, Minato Namikaze is the final assault ninja on this roster. And with that, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know if you think that these ninjas fit perfectly in the DPS role of this roster. Or maybe they should have been tanks. Or maybe you think they should have been supports, which just so happens to be the next video coming out tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys for watching all the way to the end, and I'll catch you in the next one.